What's up, guys? Welcome to the Outer Nexus. Tonight, we're going to check out what Skywatcher is presenting to the world with its new UAP data, which is really it's very interesting. It to me, obviously, I've been studying the subject for over 20 years. I'm a believer. It's very impressive to me what they've been able to uh, come up with. However, I don't quite think it's good enough for people like Billy, and we'll get into that. Um, and that's fine. We are going to get into the reasons why that's a problem. It's not Billy's fault. Um, but first, um, we're gonna watch a very excited news anchor. It's just funny how excited he is because it's like they're finally allowed to talk about this shit. So we're gonna show this off first. He's so happy. Let's see.
Hey, welcome back. And guess what? There is some brand new UAP video that just dropped, possibly shot from a Navy ship, once again, off the coast of Southern California, which for some reason, has been this very, very weird hotspot for all kinds of unidentified flying objects that don't seem to care that there are all kinds of Navy warships that are out there training. Now, quick refresh about why this area matters so much. 2004, we've all seen this video that was showing what was described by Navy pilots flying off the USS Nimitz as a white Tic-Tac that was zooming around in ways and speeds they just could not explain. In 2019, sailors on the USS Russell, again, off the coast of San Diego, seeing what they described in night vision goggles as upside-down pyramids.
Okay, hang on. I'm trying to get a really good picture of that because I do want to address that. See, the thing with that one in particular is that's actually the most impressive video of UAP, in my opinion, but it's never really quite been confirmed. A lot of people say it's legit, and he's just lumping it in. So I'm just gonna take that and assume it is actually they've confirmed it somehow, which in my opinion, again, would make it much more impressive than anything we've seen. He only covers it briefly though.
As upside down pyramids, and then brings us to today. This new infrared video just released by documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell showing what he says was an incident on the USS Jackson. It's one of these littoral ships, one of the highest tech ships that we have in our arsenal. And according to Corbell, Navy sailors were actively tracking one of 4 unknown objects observed going in and out of the water. No heat plumes, no exhaust, nothing. And here is how one of the witnesses on board the ship described it.
I go out to the bridge wing. I'm noticing things and lights on the horizon and like city lights or any other ships that are out there. So seeing a light that is lifting up, you can see it. I know the difference between a light on the horizon coming up and a light coming out of the water. When you've been on the water more in your life than you haven't been, you know the difference.
Now let's get into it with Jeremy Corbell, one of the hosts of.
Okay, so enough with that. So what's interesting and stands out to me is, hold on, let me pull this up just to have it. Is so hang on. So this was a portion of the article released back in 2017, which opened the door to a lot of UAP legitimacy. And it was again in this location in 2004 of one of these Tic-Tac objects off the coast of California. And this one, that one in particular, you had pilots testify before Congress. Commander David Fravor testified before Congress that he witnessed one of these things up close with his co-pilot Alex Dietrich. And she said the same, that that's what it looked like. It was a white Tic-Tac object, maybe about the size of a bus or a little bigger, warping around in the water when they went out there to see it. Now, this is like super high level people would not make this shit up saying this. but the problem was it was only one data point. It was really only one data point. It was an impressive data point, but now we have this other data point, which is basically the same kind of Tic-Tac video, but what, 2023, something like that, the USS Jackson. And news is reporting on it. So now you have two of these. Okay. So I think that brings an incredible amount of legitimacy to the concept of these, that there are UFOs that are Tic-Tac shaped, and the Tic-Tac shape is seen throughout ufology. So that's like a standard, like, at least this thing is real. Many people have seen these things before. We have two major data points, and now through the professionalism of Skywatcher, they've captured more of these things on camera. I'm gonna link a video. Maybe Ashton cut it himself. I'm not sure, but it's Ashton Forbes' Twitter. It's a condensed and stabilized video of what Skywatcher came up with. And just to clarify, that is Skywatcher AI, skywatcher.ai. That is their website, and we'll go over that. But let's look at the data first. Hold on. All right. So this is how they've classified them. We'll just watch this and see what happens.
Each UAP class has different characteristics. Some shimmer, some tumble, some spin. Some look like they're alive and they just fly like a living object in the sky. UAPs are extremely hard to image. What is seen with the naked eye is generally not what is seen under camera. The class 1 often spins, tumbles through the sky. Craft looks like a black body. It appears to flash, pulse multiple times per second. There appears to be some kind of cloud or vapor around it. We've seen class 1s in formations up to 22, 23, flying in different flight formations, different flock formations. The class 2 is the classic Tic-Tac. We've seen it in groups of 2 to 3, often flying very erratically. We've seen these a couple years in a row, and usually we see them in groups. The class 3, the blob, a pulsing, vibrating cloud. There's something, maybe perhaps a cylinder kind of in the middle that has a different light like a flame, and then it vibrates and pulses as it moves through space. The class 4 is your orb. We've only seen it in infrared, but the class 4 seems to only come during certain activities in conjunction with perhaps the class 1. We don't have enough data yet to confirm. The class 5 we call the Manta ray. It seems to tumble and rotate as it moves through the sky. Class 6 is Bright Star. That one vibrates very, very fast. It literally looks like a crystal in the sky. The class 7 is the jellyfish. It's probably about 2 meters across. The head is purple and black in color, and then it has tentacles. The class 8 we call the hornet. It looks very similar to the class 7, the jellyfish, except for it's bigger, and it's almost like a jellyfish carrying something. And then the class 9 is the egg. The class 9 isn't something we have a lot of data on. It's very limited. We have it as Skywatcher during our California event. It's an emerging class, and we have strong evidence that it probably exists, but we don't.
Okay. So in my opinion, now, like I said, the Tic-Tac videos that they have are impressive and just add to, the growing pile of evidence that these Tic-Tac craft do in fact exist. But what stood out to me the most is the Manta ship. I just thought that was incredibly impressive, because in my opinion, that correlates with a very high quality shot of one of these Mantas, in my opinion. And this is a link to the UAP Files podcast on Twitter. I'm just gonna show this. It was a good comparison that they did. Hold on, here we go. This is basically what I was looking for.
The class 5 we call the Manta ray. It looks to be like it's written a manta ray.
Oh wait, hold on. Do that again.
The class 5 is written a manta ray. It has round everywhere. I don't think there's anything straight or nearly straight. We actually went frame by frame on this because it's tumbling slowly, and derived a 3D model of what we think it looks like. Here you can see it tumbling and spinning on multiple axes as it comes through the frame.
And you said this is going perpendicular to the wind and faster than the wind.
Yes, it was on radar. It was on imagery, multiple bands. And the interesting thing is the radar shows this vibrating as well, the same heartbeat signal, which is really a boost in our
You can see the plane.
analysis, because only UAPs appear to have the vertical and horizontal heartbeat. Manned
That's a good
aircraft,
shot of it.
balloons, birds, drones, they don't. They have a flat line trajectory and also a flat line radar signal.
So we can compare that to this video shot by pilot Jorge Arteaga over Colombia. I forget which year. It was recent, maybe 2019. So best ever footage on film, has authenticity confirmed, and they'll slow it down a little bit. There it is. And it just looks like some kind of weird, to me it looks like one of these Manta craft. I mean, that's not a great shot. Hold on, let me see if we can. There. Let's see. Boom. So that's basically that. And to me, that one stands out the most as like, we have a high quality shot. This could be a high quality shot of maybe what people traditionally confuse with a flying saucer, perhaps, but it doesn't really seem like that. And that is the main issue that I am having with a lot of this stuff. But we'll get to that in a bit. So the reason, so Skywatcher's whole angle here is that they are basically former veterans and civilians, and they are now utilizing the technology that the military was able to utilize to basically interact with this UAP and get high quality shots from them. And recently, Eric Burleson basically said that it's not that UFOs and alien life is classified, it's that the cameras and the sensor systems that have the footage are classified. So they have all this footage of UAP, but the sensor systems that they're capturing it on, they can't release to the public. And that makes sense. That totally makes sense. But as technology progresses forward, just like with the Biden UFO debacle, where, you know, we were able to basically sense the Biden administration first came out and said were UFOs, and then they were like, oh, they're like weather balloons or some weird shit. And then they were Chinese balloons, obviously. And definitely they could have just been Chinese balloons. But the fact of the matter is, they were so high up in our atmosphere that normal sensors can't really pick them up. But now with the increase in technology, the developments in technology, this is getting easier to do. This is getting easier to sense these things, to pick these things up on radar. And civilians are figuring out what kind of technology is required for it. Apparently, the 1.6 gigahertz frequency is involved in this somehow, which is the frequency that they were using in Skinwalker Ranch to make these sort of anomalous events happen. In fact, a lot of this stuff that Skywatcher is capturing seems to be a lot like a lot of the stuff from Skinwalker Ranch. And part of that is involving psionics. What they're calling psionics is individuals who have some sort of psychic ability to some degree. And so they have them sitting out on like lawn chairs with face masks on, and they're meditating. They're doing whatever to try to call attention to these, you know, these UAP. And they're saying that this UFO dog whistle works 100% of the time when they have all these techniques running at the same time. The issue that they're having right now is capturing these things properly. As you can tell, and this is what we're going to get into now, a lot of these things, and you immediately said it, is they look like Mylar balloons. And as much as I really like Michael Shermer's take on things, I appreciate a good skeptic. And I don't appreciate debunkers like Mick West. However, what Mick West does serve as is, what the new narrative control mechanism is going to be for these types of things. And I'll just pull up what he has to say about this. And I think you would agree that, it's what would you think about what you've seen so far about this?
All right. So based on what you've just
What
shown
I've
so
shown
far.
you.
Okay. Again, I think it's data points.
It's data points.
It is the way I would sum it up.
We need more of them.
You need more of them. Yes.
Yeah. And we actually, you know what? Let's get into that before we get into this a little bit, because that was one of my major issues here with Skywatcher. And it's not like it's an issue. It's just here, I'll show you. It's just what we were saying. Like they have their classifications. I just went to the Manta ray as like, okay, let's see more data on this. And it's coming soon. They say that it's coming soon. Here's the thing. Honestly, and this is awesome. I am 100% behind all of their efforts. I will support them as much as possible. But you guys should have come out with a number of data points instead of the coming soon. When you came out and released all this to the world, it should have been multiple examples of this stuff. And it seems like you have that with the Tic-Tac. And you probably do have that. You're probably all cleaning it up and you're probably going to release it. But that's my opinion on that. So back to you, Billy, about what your opinion is about all of this right now.
I mean that was most of it right there. It's
okay.
like, you have some data points here.
Yeah.
They point to a whole bunch of different things.
Mhm.
I wouldn't just say UAP or whatever.
Yeah.
But getting more conclusive data, more accurate data.
Mhm.
You're saying that there are these sensor systems that are classified.
Mhm.
I bet you if they are real and they are able to track these things, I bet you they have more of the data that I
Yes.
would be talking about.
Yes.
But until we get that data, it's just speculation.
It's okay. Yeah, you're not wrong. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is, hold on, let me see if I can find this. Okay. We're just gonna look at these again one more time really quick. These ones in particular, and this is what I want to talk about with Mick West. So when you have, hold on, stuff like this one in particular, when it's just a light in the sky, and not that one. That one's, in my opinion, that one's a really good one. But stuff like this, like when you have shots like this, hold on, not that, like this thing, whatever the fuck this thing is. Now it could, and they're calling this like the Hornet, and it's got a thing hanging below it, and it moves around. But if I just presented this video, that singular video to you, you'd be like, oh, well,
No.
you're mistaken. That's a Mylar balloon.
Oh, no. I mean, no, because see, on my end,
Yeah.
it would just, it's not a Hornet,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily a Mylar balloon either.
Okay.
It's just,
all right. So that is interesting. Okay.
it's just some piece of
weird thing.
That's just around.
Whatever.
It's like, cool. You videotaped a weird thing.
Yeah.
And that,
That's
yeah.
And that's the issue that I'm having with a lot. Like, I understand the data and the importance of it, but it's the presentation that I'm having an issue with. And like Jake said on Twitter, they're trying to find vintage camera operators which have a much higher resolution, and the vintage cameras have a much higher resolution. I think they're like naturally 8K, and that's where we seem to get the most compelling footage of this stuff from like the 60s and 70s and 80s. Like it got to the point, I think Billy Meyer was labeled as a hoaxer because his images were so dramatic and high detail. So what we really need is these guys out there that know how to operate this older equipment to get higher quality shots of these things, because right now,
Or that newer equipment.
well, the super, the military super equipment that we're not allowed to have. But I think the vintage camera stuff is the way to go. Otherwise you're just getting like these weird whatever's in the sky. That's the presentation to the normal person. Like these just kind of look like weird blobs. It's not compelling. However, I do think the Tic-Tac and the Manta Ray are compelling, and I would like to talk to you about those things. What is your opinion about the Tic-Tac stuff?
So, I mean, the Tic-Tac and which one? The other one?
The Manta.
The Manta.
Yeah.
So, like, the one Manta that we saw, not the one from the airplane.
Okay.
I guess the one that was tumbling.
The tumbling one, yeah.
That one, in a way, does kind of just look like a Mylar bag.
Right.
That's the one that he kind of mentioned. I said kind of looks like a Mylar bag.
Yeah.
And I didn't say Mylar bag. It just kind of looked like a bag. Then he said someone else had said.
Oh,
that
the
Mylar
is it's the go-to.
Okay.
Oh, Mylar balloon.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
They're all like that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I just said it kind of looked like some kind of bag, and he's like, oh, Mylar. So
yeah.
All right. But yeah, on that one, that's what it is. The one from the plane. You see, there is also another thing I would say about the one from the plane is there are shapes, even to the layperson, that convey through culture and what we've seen in the past a UFO.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that one kind of has the general
shape of like a UFO.
Of like a UFO. Now, does that mean that's what it is? Absolutely not. But it does lend itself even to the layperson to be like, that's maybe something.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's more compelling.
Yeah,
I will say that. But beyond that, again, it's not much further from that Hornet video.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, what did we get from this?
Yeah.
And again, it adds more to the speculation. Does add more to the questions that, like, hey, we've seen a lot of these things here. What are we seeing here? What are they doing? What kind of propulsion systems? What kind of materials are we talking about? Like the one guy on the ship said, I didn't see any heat streams coming off this thing. And there are those questions, and they deserve answers. But the thing is, if we just have these videos, we don't have any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
We need the data. We need the actual analysis. And honestly, yeah. So like on the Skywatcher's website, skywatcher.ai, they seem to say that they are going to come out with more evidence, more footage, more data. The only previous statement of authority, I would say, is from Dr. Gary Nolan, who came out and said that he did witness something anomalous happen during one of these events, but it seemed like he was only referencing one thing. I think we need to have him fully analyze all of this data and make a statement. I think that would be appropriate. And maybe we'll get that. He is working with their team. But further, what do you think about if this is all true and they are using people with allegedly psychic abilities to sort of call down these UAPs? What are the implications of that if that's true? You probably what do you think?
I don't like the idea of psychic abilities.
Right.
Now, that isn't to say that there isn't a chance somewhere that they aren't real.
Electroencephalograms.
Brain
waves are frequencies.
Brain waves are frequencies.
That
and yes,
there are
things that can be done with the human brain and the frequencies we let out, and I am sure, and I am sure there is going to be technology in the future that
Neuralink.
that will come and address some of these things. But as of right now, to say that there are psychic powers or whatnot that have just come around naturally, yes, there are chances, but I have not seen them. I've not seen the data.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything more than that. But with your
Implications,
question being addressed, like, hey, if it's all true, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to that. It's like, what are we?
I have a little bit of wild speculation here.
Oh, do you wanna-
Maybe to seed your thoughts here. So here's an idea that I do not really subscribe to, but it's like a maybe. In that these what were the skin of these things, what we're actually seeing is not an actual physical object, but some sort of manipulated force field. And the reason why it's so shiny and bright is because it's like a really solid force field that light is just basically reflecting and bouncing off, to the point where it looks like it's metal when it's actually some sort of force field shape that it's maintaining. Now, like I said, I'm not that idea is not really that fleshed out, but the implication is that it's being generated from a higher dimension, that these things are being pulled in somewhere from a higher dimension. And just like using that wildly speculative logic, that might explain the Hornet thing. It looks like it's something poking into our dimension. What do you think? We're calling out to it.
I mean,
I Lovecraftian manner.
That's what that calls in at that point.
Yeah,
when you're saying like
about that,
calling in from a different dimension. Yeah. I subscribe to that less.
Yeah.
And the reason I would is because it adds an entirely new dimension.
Yes.
And I hate that was a pun, but dimension to this whole thing where it's like you're adding another variable. And it's a hell of a variable.
Yes.
So I don't like that idea. And again, you need even more evidence to support that.
Yes.
And we don't have any of that. At least we have only, speculative video on certain things. And of the psychic stuff, I haven't seen almost any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got to admit the Tic-Tac stuff is it's pretty good in terms of like moving the subject forward.
Well, I'm not saying it's good or bad. What I'm saying is that the Tic-Tac and that thing there, the Manta,
not related to that thing, just the Tic-Tac, because we got the Nimitz encounter, the USS Jackson encounter, and a plethora of Tic-Tac data from them. I don't think we actually showed that, but they have a bunch of shots of their Tic-Tacs doing weird stuff.
Yeah. And from all that data, like I said, there is an amount of like, it brings more
credulence
to the whole subject.
Yeah.
And I would like to see, again, it all goes back to the same thing. The data.
We need the data.
Yeah.
We need the
data. Because if you
Yeah.
can't produce that, then it's like, cool. You have weird stuff on camera.
And that's all it really is.
Yeah.
For the normal person. So like to wrap it up, basically, for people like me who've been studying the subject for a very long time, this is a very, very awesome leap forward. I am incredibly impressed with all of the new Tic-Tac stuff. It's just, I think we are in a new era of ufology now that we have the Tic-Tacs, more of this Tic-Tac stuff.
I will say, even from my angle,
Mm-hmm.
I am the lay person of this. It's just I happen to coincide with this other person here who is very much a UAP UFO type person here.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, I will even agree with you that I believe that the level of credulence for this has definitely gone up a notch across the board.
Yeah.
And I've even seen that as just someone who's not even paying attention that much.
Yeah. And I just wanted to, like, as you brought that up, we have Skywatcher.ai, and we also, I'm just going to throw these two up because I love showing this website for Ryan Graves, Americans for Safe Aerospace. He's trying to fight against the UFO stigma because UFOs are real. And then we also have I'll just pull this up as well because I just think this is really that this is happening. The Soul Foundation, which is, hold on, let me just see if they have like, here we go. Okay, so yeah, we got all, yeah, here we go. Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford University, Dr. Peter Skadefish, and the anthropologist, Jonathan Berthe, not sure who he is, but that's cool. Mara, okay, polymath. But they also have as advisory board Timothy Gallaudet, Rear Admiral, and the one of the administrators for the National Oceanic for NOAA. I forget, they cut that off there. Kevin Newth from University of Albany, Jeffrey Kreipel. I could just go down the list. Avi Loeb from Harvard, Diana Pasulka from University of North Carolina and the Vatican. Jacques Vallée is here too. Like, the Avengers are coming together for ufology here, guys. Like, it's you know, it's happening. It's just, it's all part of the process. My only weird angle here, it's not a weird angle, it's just the practicality of it. It seems like this is opening the doors to UAP specifically of being credible, which is amazing. But we are seemingly not really seeing the technological impact of this yet. Maybe I think what a lot of people were really hoping and expecting for Skywatcher is that they were going to be able to call a vessel down and have a being step out and wave at them. You know what I mean? And that definitely, there's nowhere near that. Like, I go back to that the vintage camera shots. We need much higher quality shots of these vessels. You know, we just need much higher quality shots of them. And like I said, this direction is fine, but I'm more interested in seeing how we can implement whatever technologies we could derive from this into maybe our own spacecraft. And
well, that's one of the points that I've always made. It's like, you know, because we don't have all these data points for all these things that you're showing and the lack thereof, it's like, okay, so again, you have the cool pictures, the cool videos, but we're not gaining anything.
That's the thing. And that is like we think we're doing a bunch of stuff with this, but that is the hard wall of practicality of this subject, is what are we actually gaining from this other than, you know, just looking back at the ancient AI drone defense grid that we can't interact with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I hate to say it, because I mean, if there was something like, for instance, if we found something on Earth, and this is all
speculative,
not even speculative, it's made up right now on the spot. Like, if we found some ancient alien thing on Earth and it was there and we could go in it and we couldn't interact with it at all. It's like, then what did we actually find? Like, cool.
Like, shit,
like it showed there are certain, you know, things you can draw even from that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, we're not able to pull anything from
this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where the problem with funding for all this stuff is, especially, well, in the civilian sector, is there isn't a practical use case for investing money into this yet. It seems much more scientific and research based, which is great. Like, I'm not trying to bash that part. I totally support that. That's amazing. Yes, we should be conducting science and research in this direction, and maybe we will get something out of it.
Yeah,
you know. And I think that is where we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good episode. Please like and subscribe, guys. See you next time.